This seat is ridiculous. I'm glad I'm a viewer.
Especially the race that happened this afternoon at 2 p.m., which was a swordless key sanity entrance randomizer with madness, with no logic between all the entrances and the exits, everything completely random. I wasn't around to watch the beginning of the race, and I just tuned in the middle of it, and I just had absolutely no idea what was going on.
Yeah, it looks
already
like
we can see that we are off, and here we can see all of the runners doing a pretty standard opening, looking at Lumberjack Cave. Some of them doing the Julian room to try to get some extra money at the beginning to make everything more consistent. We can see a tree pool that only gives a bunch of blue rubies.
Yeah, it looked into Kermisting Hulahan, but unfortunately it looked like he had a different seed, so I'm not quite sure what was going on there.
Ooh.
Might have to switch him out, or at the very least let him know. But bear with us while we get going here. But yeah.
This will be quite a problem for him. Here we see Link's house only giving, once again, a blue rupees and nothing more exciting. Yeah, he doesn't have the shield unlike the other runners. And we can see in the woods one heart container, and we'll soon see what's in the cave. It appears to be the red boomerang, and for once we can be hyped about it, since usually the boomerangs are the items that people are less excited about. When the early game, it becomes really handy. And Colony providing a little quarter heart, and in the dam we also don't get much in the way of excitement. Oh, we actually have the moon pill in the chest in the near Uncle. That might be a sign that early access to that mountain, the Dark World, might come in and be relevant this race.
Yeah, unfortunately a little bit of a strange start here, so please bear with us while we get going. But for the other racers, they're doing their tour of Kakariko here.
Unfortunately, nothing really relevant so far, unless you can count 1 HP. We have a switch from Kermit to Evanidus. That's going to be a replacement because of the different seed.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've seen that in the past before too. It's kind of funny. Crystal's Owen once played a race and didn't find out until after. Those things happen, but unfortunately, if you're Kermit, you're probably like, "Oh, I get to be on the restream," and then all of a sudden you're, no longer on the restream. But now I can proceed forward as normal.
Oh, we get the mushroom that Justin found in the well. And also, I have no idea where he got it, but Evanidus apparently found the eater somewhere. Sadly, we weren't around to actually witness it from happening.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Soon the other racers will actually find it as well, and then we'll all know.
Yeah, Shadow has to be careful here, making good use of the bombs, but down to 1 heart, but does make it through. So we got the flute in Lake Hyplia.
That's a great early item to get. Simplifies a lot of item checks in the early game. Speeds up the seed a lot. Later on, just basically becomes an access to get your potions faster, and also simply to access them higher.
Yeah, for him, he's going to go activate it right now. It's not worth walking towards Ice Rock Cavern, even if he chooses to do it. He can just activate the flute and then flute over, and yeah, lets him get around a little bit. Doesn't logically open too much besides the mountain, and it'd be a little bit early to go there, but you never know.
Yeah, it just needs a hook shot, and then you can get a lot of items from that mountain, and it suddenly becomes really worth it. Without it, it basically just becomes 2 items plus a check if you know the dark rooms. We unfortunately only see a big 20 in the library, so the racers will definitely not go back to obtain it.
No, definitely not. Shadow make his Aga check, and yeah, the race is pretty much just kind of trading places, doing their basic early game checks here.
Do the quick checks that are easy to do without really having acquired a lot of items in the beginning. And we see the race is only 5 rupees, and in the lumberjack cave, we only see a triplet of bombs. So once again, item 1 might not be required a seed.
Yeah, a lot of the early game tends to get homogenous in terms of routing. You're really just looking for items to open up the seed. So even though the name says open, a lot of the time you're typically doing a lot of familiar checks and kind of seeing the best way you can route things. Like if you would be able to leave Kakariko, you might be able to find a bottle elsewhere, which is something you see more in standard, but it really depends. Sometimes the items can give you an early lead to a location like the bow. But yeah, just a lot of typical quick early game checks.
Of course, you're just a lot less relegated to the same locations from, say, a standard seed, where you're absolutely forced to do the entirety of escape. And you're also gambling to actually find bombs, so you can not have to revisit it later.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of difference between the two modes. It's more of a subtle difference. You can route in Kakariko later in standard, but then in open you tend to force to do Kakariko a little bit early because you don't have a weapon to go through escape, unless you happen to find one through Uncle, which does give that possibility. So players especially now kind of going through the Moldorm and the Kakariko, and Justin actually going into escape, which is pretty cool.
It's going to give us the opportunity to find new items. Yeah, the difference between standard and open is mostly the first 5 minutes of your seed is not set in stone, as in what you're supposed to do, and also you're not guaranteed to have a sword, which is actually a big deal for the newer players, which means open is a bit more daunting as far as modes go.
Yeah, originally there were no dark rooms in standard in the light world, so it was a very much more comfortable mode for new players. But then they made it so that only the beginning of escape is actually dark in a later version. But Evanidus only has 3 bombs to kill these Moldorms.
I don't actually remember if the red boomerang can hurt them. This is pretty stressful.
No, it just stuns them, but he does get through and gets some money too, so that's really good for him.
He clutches it and gets an extra one.
Yeah, so he'll get his flute here, which is really good. Meanwhile, Indispensable is making his way over to Moldorm Cave as well.
He's going to have his flute and be able to activate it later as well. It's also really nice that Evanidus didn't have to use all of his bombs, because it's a really nice thing to be able to route ice skates from that, but since you find the flute in it, then it becomes a lot less attractive.
Yeah, it'll be hard to say if the flute actually pays into the logic as far as this point. It will later, I'm sure, but right now it's just basically mobility. And if they get more options, they'll make the mountain more appealing. But so far, kind of looking more to Zora.
Yeah, with the flippers that he found. But so far as we don't find the power gloves or the lamp, then the flute might be the actually intended way to access that mountain.
Yeah, and Justin was in a precarious situation, but manages to get through. Just a lot of arrow upgrades, unfortunately.
Nothing interesting in the escape, sadly. We might see Indispensable making his way towards Eastern Palace while making a little Ahalia island check.
Yeah, I almost got some sinkage at the bomb shop here.
Nice little high five.
DVD.
We can see on the island. Oh, that's a hook shot.
Hook shot's pretty good.
Luck behind the mirror, so it's going to have you found somewhere. And soon Evanidus is going to be able to tell us what exactly is that Sashrala? I think I nailed it. Also the location of the green pendant, if you so desire to inform yourself. Oh, we actually have a map check right now from ShadouFireborn. We actually know that desert's the green pendant with a normal crystal at Tower Hera, and eastern is but a red or blue pendant.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to make a comment saying that because of the flippers and whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised if we find a lantern or maybe even a push towards Ganon, but Evanidus finding lantern and the glove. So that's really good. That'll open up basically all of escape as well as the access to the mountains. So the flute not actually necessarily being required for mountain here at the moment.
No, but since we actually know that two of the pendants on the light wardens actually really high likely, sorry, that the Mr. Meyer is actually a required crystal, so that's probably where the flute plays in the seed.
Yeah, this is kind of a fun thing to see where, like, the flute might not actually be required, but you do get it anyway.
It's always going to be an item.
Logic might go.
No one's going to spit on the flute. In the ice cave, we only have a quarter heart, which is quite a disappointment. Only the big key so far found in the Eastern Palace. Meanwhile, Justin actually nails his flute and is probably going to go straight to activate it. It's just too good a play in the early game. Oh, ShadouFireborn looks like he's going to turn in his mushroom.
He only finds a little bit of money.
Which is sad for him, since it's actually usually a play that most people don't want to do immediately, that can give you a really good edge if you do so and the item ends up being really relevant.
Well, the idea is that you sometimes gamble certain locations thinking that others may not do that location, because really it's not even so much that you're playing the seed as you're playing people. So something like doing an early hobo check, if he has an item that can give you enemy edge, or some people really put off catfish. So if you do catfish early and he happens to have something, that can give you a huge edge in races. Obviously little gambles or little time investments like that kind of have to be gauged with the seed and how things are going. But if you'll watch top players, like even Ben in tournament, he would fake flipper and just go to hobo. It seems like, well, why would you go there if you don't have the flippers or anything? But in the event hobo has something like the boots, then it could very well pay off really big for you. And it's one of those things that you're not necessarily expecting another to check.
And sometimes the logic might intend you to do Ganon one, but maybe you just fake flippers and then you just find the hammer. And maybe all the other players respecting the logic are going to do Ganon one, but you can basically cheat in comparison to others and you just straight up save 5 minutes there.
Yeah, a lot of the time you're kind of looking for the mirror, the boots, or the flute in terms of a sequence break to really pay out in terms of mobility and whatnot. We do see Shadow making his rounds here with using the flippers. But we're kind of still looking for a little bit. We have the back of Escape with the dark room in the middle, and we do have the mountain left. So we might see Evanidus end up going to the back of Escape right now to check that.
Oh, definitely, with the gloves and the lantern. But sadly, Eastern Palace not paying off, but Sarashwala's hut just full of goodness for early game routing. The gloves and the lantern. It's really giving him as an edge, this Reese. If he keeps making the right decisions, he's quite ahead. Oh, hammer! And powder!
Powder. So I'm surprised at you getting the hammer. Oh, he probably didn't have a key to go check the dark room. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, no, he didn't have a key. So he's going to be leaving the dark room for now. Was that the King of Samaria?
Yes, it is the King of Samaria. Acquired in the how do people call it these days? The
Waterfall Cave.
Yeah, the less fancy name for it.
So King of Samaria, and we got the flute.
And in Agnes Cave, we're going to soon see what we can find.
Oh, sword too. So the flippers are really paying off here.
So the flippers were the play.
Well, it really depends where the pearl is, because if the pearl...
We found the pearl.
Did we find the pearl?
Haven't we? Oh,
that
was it Kermit that found the pearl? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Kermit. It really depends where you find the pearl, because like, if Zora has the pearl, then obviously people are going to have to get to Zora sooner than later. But if the pearl turns out to be elsewhere, like someone like Evanidus might not get led to Zora's domain as early. So it'll be pretty interesting in terms of routing how people go.
So far,
it looks like he's going to go to Zora area here.
What locations have we not seen? Is it basically that mountain?
Yeah, so this will be good for him. Again, like if you checked powder with the hammer at Batcave, had the pearl, then you already have dark belt, and you're like, well, why would I go to Zora until later? But Zora had a sword, Zora had Samaria, so it's really good that he's making these checks here if he does do the full check.
That is a lot of progression items fairly early before any attempts to have a real dungeon done is even attempted. I don't really count dipping into the early Eastern Palace as really an attempt to complete dungeon, since it's just quick to obtain items, and the bow could be almost anywhere in the seed. So
yes, so the pair's kind of rotating their checks here, but Evanidus really looking for the pearl, and everyone else kind of looking for their little odds and ends.
He's going to find a skein, which sadly doesn't give him immediate progression here, but it's always an item that you're happy to see and not have to hunt down anywhere in the seed.
Yeah, really what it is that you're finding items that you know you'll need later in the seed. So in terms of a time investment, you know you're not losing time over an opponent because they're going to have to do it anyway. So even if it's not immediately useful, you know it will be useful. So you're just thinking, okay, these checks were good on, you know, fleshing out the seed, and then, you know.
But sadly, logically, it appears that all the players are just going to check and rehash the locations that other players have done in a different order until they actually decide that, okay, that mountain is actually the play now, or just turning in, checking the mad batter, see what the powder can give you. And actually, that's only a thing that can be in the mind of Evanidus.
Yeah, he's looking for the pearl. So there's Agina and there's the mountain, basically. So, you know, kind of looking for the pearl, or in the mirror leading to like Hera, which leads to the pearl and hookshot, and you know, however it kind of plays out.
And we've seen Agina before, and we know it's only a piece of heart, so it has to be the batter on the or that mountain, I think. Fast like that, I cannot think of other locations.
Yeah, it's pretty much Agina, the bat, and the mountain.
No, it cannot be Agina, I'm telling you. Justin did that earlier. It was a piece of heart.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, no problem. It's so easy to miss little details in this commentary, tracking 4 players at once. Speaking of trackers,
especially
I want to give a shout out to our wonderful trackers tonight, Dark Falls and Sigma.
Definitely. The tracker can be a bit of a thankless job, but definitely appreciate them for everything they do. And Evanidus indeed checking Batcave, which I think is really good. Got the powder, got the hammer. Again, going to the mountain, you can get the old man, which is fine in terms of time, but then going to the top and then, you know, having to kind of do that extra low climb, you really want to make sure that when you're going, you're not really having to double back or walk over familiar locations.
Yeah, exactly. And also the batter is not necessarily a location that most people think of really quickly in the very early game. So if you find something relevant there, it can really pay off. But sadly, it's not going to be. It's only a piece of heart.
Yes, it's turned to Ballneck here.
It's really just that one item that's going to blow up in the seed. It might be the cape, it might be a sword upgrade to enable the Ganon one, or it can be the pearl, and suddenly everything's much easier for everyone.
Yeah, cape opening Aghanim to get the pearl in the pyramid, although that's really rare to find.
Or maybe we're even skipping ahead and we might just find the book and then progressions in desert.
No, that's gross. It's too linear.
Yeah, it's not great. I want excitement. I want the people to be entertained and not having to watch everyone doing the same linear race with just a different beginning. Though we're getting so many items early on that's just not immediately useful right now, but when the seed opens up, we have a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, so Shadow getting his glove and lantern, he'll be happy to have that. Then we'll continue on to do Eastern. Indispensable finishing up Eastern, and Justin as well making his way through the mountain.
Hey!
Oh, there's the
Whoops!
so rude.
I sincerely apologize to everyone for jinxing it. I did not have any prior knowledge of this seed, I swear.
See, when you say that, it sounds like you're being defensive. So now I'm not sure if I believe you.
I'm just trying to be honest with the audience. I want to have a friendly rapport with them and not to have them immediately hate me because I force bad things to happen. Whoops.
Yeah, so Evan, knowing, has to go to the desert pretty much. Warp Stilling's house. He's gonna flute. So we'll get to see what's all here.
I actually can't remember if you did Agonist Cave. So I might pull in that check at the same time.
I thought you literally said they already did Agonist Cave.
Oh, sorry.
Tripping me up, man.
I'm really trying. Sorry.
It's okay. Justin getting his book, saving, quitting. So now it's just up to the others to kind of make their way too.
Mostly everyone did all of their AOD checks. They're basically all almost down to only checking that mountain. It was only the batter that I don't think that they've done either. But Justin saving himself a lot of pain and a minute of time wasted basically by not doing that. And we see the big key on the torch, which means that the boots are actually required to finish this dungeon.
Yeah, so this item right here is really important. What will it be? There's a few options, but
it's a pearl!
Yeah, that's figures.
Sadly, so the Ganon one dreams it's dead. But I'm pretty sure that all the runners are going to rejoice when they see the item.
So it's really good getting the pearl. There's a few different routing options you can take. It kind of depends what you want to do. But with the flippers, you can go from west to east along the northern Dark World tour if you want to make your way over to like Catfish Pyramid and then over to Pod. So it looks like Evanidus is going to go through the Dark World. He'll be able to check High Cave and then kind of it'll be up to him whether he decides to go to the pyramid or continue to flesh out like the stump and the shovel game and everything.
It's going to have to come back to the area later to actually claim his hookshot though. But since the entrance to Dark World is so close, it's not really big of a deal.
Yeah, it really depends kind of what items you find at this early part here, depending on where you dipped into the Dark World and then what the Dark World actually gives you. So like if you have the mirror, that'll change where you go. If you have the bow, you know, that sort of thing. Or even just, well, not so much gold gloves, but yeah.
But sadly, the hype cape not really providing any hype except a ball, which opens up Sickid and also can make some dungeons and some bosses less of a pain.
Yeah, Justin Z, skipping the first two chests, going for the worth, but the worth wasn't there. Going back for the non-worth, which happened to have a bottle.
Justin trying to redefine the metagame right there. And Indispensable finally finding his book.
Yeah, so we have a very interesting route divergence here, which I really like. Evanidus indeed going to the left, so he'll probably check up here, soon quit, go to town, and then he can route over from west to east along the northern Dark World. Has the hammer, so he can do through town. I don't think we've gotten a map check either, so we'll have to see what that happens to be too. But Justin Z immediately going for pyramid, so hoping that this pyramid item might give an early edge and may even take an early dip into Pod. Evanidus going with the boring but efficient shovel pattern.
Sadly, nothing interesting on the pyramid, and also nothing interesting in the shovel game. We're going to go straight for catfish. A nice, interesting play from Justin. That might actually pay off big if you found something like a mirror, a fire rod, or even a bow.
It's funny because those two locations are really annoying, so it makes sense why he would come over here. And again, it's kind of that early advantage thing. If you don't think your opponent is going to check it for a long time, but happens to have something, then you just have that carried with you the entire time. And the time it takes is kind of like the gamble that you do for the seed, because you're playing the people, you're not playing the seed. But Evanidus is also taking just a very straightforward, safe route, casting in the bottle, and then going straight into the town.
Now, so the thing with catfish is that if you don't find a lot of progression items elsewhere and you haven't done it, you always have that location in the back of your head, always hesitating, should I go back for it? Should I not? And that can be quite annoying as a runner.
Yeah, speaking of annoying, the chat is not going to get their postal check. So, sorry, but it's a little early. It makes sense. Maybe hope for the mirror, maybe pair it in with Skullwoods, but we do get our map check. These 10 pennant, that's a fun one.
And sadly, if we do happen to find the mirror, it's probably going to go lead straight to getting the hookshot, and that opens up everything to do Swamp Palace. So even then, it's going to take a little while before we actually find what's on the pad.
Yes, Swamp Palace can be a little bit controversial to people, but the hookshot, or even just the mirror alone, would open up the mountain to the mountain, the hookshot, and then the gold gloves. So you might see a very one fell swoop Death Mountain in the future.
Especially if we found the myths before then.
Yeah, well, if you find the myths and having the Cane of Samaria, it'll just make the mountain very appealing. You can check to see if Ether is the required medallion.
Oh!
And Skullwoods. So Evanidus Route is the better play at the moment.
Paying off, and suddenly you can completely complete pod. So it's going to delve deeper, trying to find that third item before leaving. Since Skullwoods has already paid off, may as well see if he can push his luck and get another really good item there.
Yeah, and correctly remembering that it's the Cane of Samaria, he does not need to push the statue.
Which is a huge time save, especially if you're less equipped in the area. When you enter this room, and killing Gibdos is really difficult when you don't have the fire rod or medallions.
Yeah, so all the players, we're getting some sync on the screen here. All the players kind of starting to converge a little bit. Even Shadow and Indispensable getting their high five.
It's almost due just to the nature of the seed that was really linear and bottleneck everything until you get a book. And also the fact that the entrance in the Dark Hole from Kakariko is really popular, since you can just do the quick checks for the Skullwoods and then chain it into getting the chest in Village of Outcast into Thieves Town. It's just a really attractive locale.
Yeah, Skullwoods is a nice quick check. It's not really front-loaded in terms of dungeon time investment. It has 2 items. They tend to be more substantial in terms of the weighting. So very good that they're getting the bow here. Vandus has to be careful. He's sitting in 1 heart, and what are those?
That is not what you want to see there.
The bee.
So we have boots locked behind the cape, and we have the hookshot locked behind the mirror.
Yeah, so
both of those items can be quite a troll.
Yeah, and Dispensable has to be very careful here too, but because he is in the dungeon, if he dies, he'll be fine.
It's only going to be a mere time loss of, what, 15 seconds? Not the end of the world, but still an annoyance that you want to avoid.
Yeah, and Vanda's going straight to pod. Not even checking the pyramid, he's just going straight to pod. Got his bow, got his lantern, got his hammer. He's going straight to pod.
And sadly, Indispensable
runners will probably follow in suit.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Indispensable taking his little 15-second penalty. And Justin, that didn't actually do the fake flippers, actually forced to actually push and pull the block to get the big key in the chest.
Yeah, pushing the block is quicker than pulling, but Kansamara, quick little speed up, and the good dose can be really annoying to deal with. The key is to really manipulate the way they move, and people familiar with the speedrun tend to have some little different methods they can do to do it, but if you're not able to do it cleanly or properly, or if the RNG is really bad, it just becomes a nightmare to deal with them. Not having a sword, he can't easily knock them out of the way either. It takes a death warp to get back to the beginning, so Digga's big key.
Also, the big key was in the first chest of Pod, so the bow is actually required to delve deeper in the dungeon, which makes the play of going to Skullwoods the only correct one.
Well, we still have to see what's in Thieves' Town, but I imagine a lot of people are going to put off because it being a pendant, not having the boots, not having the mirror, it can make it a little bit icky to try and route it or do it quickly.
Is it a pendant?
Yeah, I believe it's the red pendant. Unless, no, yeah.
Apparently it's Thieves' Town would be a pendant.
Or, I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said that Pod would be a pendant.
No, Thieves' Town.
Oh, my bad.
Well, I mean, maybe you heard me right and I got it wrong. I was thinking Thieves.
Sorry, I was talking about Pod, so I assumed we're on the same wavelength there. My bad.
It's a commentary shuffle. Commentary rando. It's a changing subject and messing up, but Justin seeing the boots. It's definitely good information to have early on. Sometimes people wait until they have the cape. Sometimes, you know, they just like the information or they route it in with their check.
And we see Indispensable swimming to the platform where he can mirror out and get the hookshot, opens the menu, and realize that he doesn't actually have the mirror.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like, I want the hookshot. I want to get there. But you need the item.
The chess game gives us nothing really relevant, sadly.
But yeah, at least Indispensable routing up to Potty here, which is good. And Shadow kind of looked like he was thinking about going to Thieves, but still doing more of the town. And definitely some good quick checks here.
And of course, as well know, Pod is definitely being backloaded here. Nothing really interesting found so far, only a piece of heart.
It's also a little annoying to route without the mirror, but definitely not the worst. The hammer can help too. But yeah, so Shadow indeed going into Thieves' Town, finding a small key. So he'll at least find the big key, so we might get 2 items early on here, but we'll have to see. But there could be something big in Thieves' Town, like the mirror, in which case it would lead to a very different route divergence. And then if there's Mitts and Pod, then C could definitely take a bit of a turn.
Here we see Evanidus attempting a hammer yomp.
Yeah, the hammer yomp is definitely a really good trick, especially if you don't have the mirror. It can save a bit of time. And even if you have to, in terms of the speedrun, even if you have to open the pause menu and close it and open it like 33 times, it's still quicker than trying to get to the bottom of the maze and then go back out.
Yeah, definitely. If you don't have the bow, then you can pretty much just do the maze normally and then just mirror out and then leave. But other than that, it's not really an attractive prospect. We actually find a sword upgrade in the dark maze.
Yeah, Evanidus getting the Master Sword, so it's a really nice find. And Shadow getting a Master Sword.
Ooh. So we
and
actually...
the Quake Medallion too.
And the blue mail.
Yes, this is really interesting. We need to see how the seed plays out, because Thieves Town might be required, but they might find progression elsewhere, which leads them away from Thieves Town. So this early Thieves Town play could actually be really substantial too. Evanidus kind of following the items in terms of getting the bow, being able to do pot, its crystal, which is a safe bet to do. But if you find some progression that leads them away, that would be really curious to kind of see how things develop.
The only remaining item can get here is just by killing Helm's Arcane, and the rest of the dungeon has not been really paying off except for the sword upgrade, which is nice but not necessarily necessary for...
Yeah, it'll be good for him because he's going to get his crystal. It'll just kind of knock the area out, and it's definitely in the safe play.
It's never a bad thing to have, but right now he's really looking more in the way of progression rather than convenient items like sword upgrades or mail upgrades.
Yeah, it's not too much really opened up immediately here.
We had Silver Arrows actually in Thieves Town, but other than that...
Yeah, they're nice to have, but they're not really a proper progression, and if you end up getting something like Tempered Sword, the value really begins to diminish.
Both dungeons are actually trolling the players with only convenient but not necessarily required items. Until the boss is killed. Unless the big chest of Thieves Town is going to pay off.
Just has the map.
Here we have the first boss attempt of the seed, Helm's King, attempted by Evanidus. Fairly standard boss, not much that you can do in terms of optimization except not using sword buffering and being really precise with your hammer hits.
Yeah, having the Master Sword and the hammer is the typical NMG setup, and actually getting a pretty good RNG setting up for rapid fire arrow shots. And Helma has the mirror, so the safe play going for the crystal is very good. Reward with the mirror, which will get him the hook shot, which means the mountain is looking very appealing in terms of lots of items and being able to clear it without having to route it funky.
Mountain opened up, a lot of overworld location opened up, swamp opened up. Like, this opens up routing a lot in the seed. So I'm pretty sure he's going to opt for that mountain since it's a lot of quicker checks that's going to pay off.
Well, swamp is a crystal, so it does make sense to do swamp. You can even just go mode it and potentially come back later. But 6 items, so if he is going for swamp here or cashing in the tablet too, it would make a lot of sense. The mountain definitely looks good, but if you can find, say, the mitt in swamp, then it's like, yeah, okay, mountain.
Yeah, of course. Oh, we see a fall from Shadow to Blind, which is pretty unfortunate. We'll see if he's going to actually commit. Oh no, he's going to come back later.
Yeah, it's a pennant. I think there's more item, but it'll be off script, and it can take a little bit of time to get back to Blind. And again, it's a pennant. If it doesn't have what you're looking for, then it's not gonna feel too good. Found the Master Sword, found Quake. So you're thinking, well, you know, Master Sword good, and then Quake might be necessary.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Also, we know the location of the mirror and the hook shot, which open up the entirety of the seed, so the odds of blind blocking progression are actually much lower.
An indispensable warping here, continuing his pod check. Meanwhile, a sync shovel game.
Sadly, nothing interesting there, as we all know.
Yeah, just with the way he read it, he's going to take a southern trip here. Evanidus looking like he is going to go to swamp area.
This is going to be an exciting progression this seed.
Yeah. The Picket charging a toll of, I believe, 1 arrow to get into swamp, as gives him the arrow, now able to enter swamp. It's kind of interesting that he didn't check the tablet first, but there's still so many items, you know, even if it is something, he can always check it on the way out too.
That's also a kind of annoying item to check when you don't actually route the purple chest with it. It's a location that you don't really want to go there twice. So I understand why he's holding off later. And also there are so many other locations in the world opened up that he can afford the delay.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's really nice to route in with the purple chest, but it can be a bit of a judgment call because you do need the dark world when you take the purple chest. Or, oh no, you don't need the dark world when you take the purple chest, but like, if it does have something, then you get out of the way, you know, or you can try and route it in later with overworld. It can be a little hard to say, especially because you're already going to swamp anyway, but without the boots, it does make sense to leave it.
Big key in the first chest of swamp, which can be really convenient if you're intending on doing a full clear, so sometimes that's one of the big keys that can actually be held by the boss, and once you've done most of it, you don't actually want to come back, going back to the big room, opening the big chest only to claim the last item.
Yeah, so fingers crossed that the dungeon items are on the left side.
At this point, there's so many items that he's missing, like bolt rods. He needs the cape to be able to claim the boots, and he knows it, so can't really risk it, I feel.
And in that room, Evanidus is in killing the red skeleton will actually reduce the lag in that room. And then speedrunner trick is when you try to hit the switch as slow as you can, and then you can actually pump while you're pushing the switch and along the wall after to try and gain that extra distance. But main thing is that if the red skeleton's in your way and you kill him, it actually will make the water fill out quicker.
That's actually really nice to know, and I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, there's a lot kind of little things like that in terms of like room lag and lag frames and the enemies. There's I forgot the enemy, or an Octorok by, I believe that was the Fire Rod in Swamp. So hey, Swamp.
Logic paying off. That mirror was extremely important. It all stemmed from that bow, which was in Skullwood. So we can really see the trail of the logic being really consistent. With probably the exceptions being the medallions.
Yeah, it's been really fortunate in the way the seed's gone out. Pretty much right now, the more straightforward and safe play has been the correct one to do. It's not that Thieves isn't good to do at all, but just the way it's been going, we don't know if the medallion will come into play. Shadow has to be careful with his health here. Having a little fight with these enemies. I forgot their name on the Dark World, Octorok, but gonna be checking Catfish. Won't find anything, but again, Catfish is one of those hard to route in, difficult kind of trolley locations, so good to get out of the way. Just to kind of finish my thought from earlier though, the Octorok near the southern Dark World portal, south of Link's house, killing him can actually reduce lag frames too.
Oh, that's really nice to know. There's so many little tricks like that that for someone that doesn't have a trained eye is really difficult to see if it's really a significant time save or not. So that's really nice information.
Yeah, a lot of the information comes from the speedrunning community for the more vanilla game. Obviously, they've put in a lot of work and tons of great runners, and it's a great speedrun to get into. I highly recommend it. Rando is still largely an infant, so there's a lot of little optimizations and tricks and things that people are coming up with all the time, and everything does add up.
And with the minor changes to the logic with further versions, there's always something new to learn.
Yep, and Indispensable got his thick shot, and he's going to the mountain.
Oh, we have a diverging path right here. We're going to see if heading there quickly instead of doing Swamp Palace. was actually the play. Though we do know that Swamp Palace, being a crystal on top of providing the Fire Rod, was a really good play. So we'll see if it actually baits it.
Evanidus has to be careful here. It's a very precarious situation.
Ooh.
Able to tank a hit, half a heart, gets his blue potion.
I've seen you in a similar situation against Coast there.
Yeah, these eye bosses, man, I tell you.
They're really annoying. Nothing on Spectacle Rock, sadly, but we can actually get a tablet check on top of dipping Hera and actually claiming a crystal from it.
Yes, let's see, tablet has nothing.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, so Evanidus is routing in the tablet check after Swamp, so makes sense. Don't really want to walk to it and then walk back across.
Also, the Fire Rod opened up so much, just till Death Mountain open, so that it might not necessarily be required to do purple chess.
Chat yelling at me. I think I accidentally made a pun without thinking about it.
Oh.
And yeah, Shadow getting his revenge.
So it appears that the basement of Hera is actually required the seed, which is always a little pain. We're always hoping that you don't have to do that. And sadly, he doesn't actually get his minute break. So he's going to have to be very attentive and swing his sword at written intervals.
Yeah, unfortunately... Oh wait, no, he does have the mirror, so he can just warp out as late. Walking back out of the basement, go into the basement, definitely takes some time, but has the mirror, so that'll cut the trip a little bit in half. I don't think you can have a little bit of half, but you know what I mean.
Now we'll see actually the big key coming out from the rod chest.
Into the cape. Or the key, then lean into the cape. It'd be fun to find the cape on here, because then they can get the boots.
And then we can actually start speedrunning this game. Nothing too interesting from Paradox Cave so far, but we still have the big multitude of chests to open. A piece of heart, another piece of heart. This is the Cave of Love. Another piece of heart, another piece of heart, and a big 20. Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, so not too much. I've mentioned it before, but the bomb jump that Evanidus is doing, one way to make it easier is to find your Y coordinate first. So try and get to the bottom of the hole and then press left, or find your X coordinate after. The game will create a little bit of a barrier for you. And the main important part of that jump is actually how close you are left-right in terms of the hole. So it definitely adds a lot of safety. Unfortunately, Shadow having Kiki get hurt and charging another fee.
The bomb jump is so intimidating if you don't have a consistent setup to be able to pull off, because you make the mistake and suddenly it becomes slower than if you just did everything the required way or just used the hook shot. So you really don't want to risk it if you're inexperienced.
Yeah. Definitely. Indispensable taking down Moldarm. Moldarm having the mitts. So things are playing out somewhat predictably here, but finding the mitts and can get to Dark World, so you'll be able to do a couple more checks here. But Evanidus will have the added bonus of a Fire Rod, so he may choose to, when he gets the mitt, take a early dip into Turok, provided that Ether is the medallion. But if it's Quake, then they'll have to go on a little bit of a hunt for that, and they can get really derailed in terms of checking items very quickly.
If it's Bombos, we'll try again later. We still have no idea where this item is. Could be anywhere. Could even be in GT, but then that would mean that the item is not required to access any dungeons.
Yeah, because the main thing is that getting the gloves means, okay, now you can go to my area. Okay, now you can go to Ice Palace. Okay, now you can, you know, go to Turok, kind of Dark World Death Mountain. And if you're looking for just one item, it can lead to a lot of potential time losses because you don't necessarily know where that item is, and you have tons of locations. Safe thing, of course, is to do crystal dungeons, but if you get multiple options, it can be tricky. Thankfully, in this case, all of them are crystals, so there isn't a lot of kind of gambling or mind games that you really need to do.
No big opportunity cost, just you're paid off anyway.
Yeah, it's a generous seed in that regard. So in seeds like this, it really tends to come down to execution and kind of how the seed played out. Like finding the Samaria in the Waterfall Cave for Justin here, that could have gotten left till a lot later, which, you know, could end up making the seed feel a lot more trolly than it really was, whereas the other races found it much earlier. And then the seed
definitely.
just kind of plays itself after a while.
Can have an item that some runners found 20 minutes in the sea that still eludes other runners an hour and a half in it. That's always a pain.
But yeah, given finding the gloves, probably check what medallion Turok is, but a little premature to try and enter it too early.
The find of the cape actually is going to allow Evanidus to claim his boots, which is always an item you like to have.
Yep. Don't remember if Indispensable got that information, but finding the boot or the cape means the boots, which means Desert Palace, even though it's pendant. But there could be an item locked behind Desert, especially given the green pendant.
I don't think he did, which is a shame.
Because we still haven't had a pestle check either, so technically Ice Rod could be on the pestle.
Ice Rod, such a scary item, could be anywhere. It's proving to be a nightmare so far. Yeah, Evanidus from the start here, getting the mitts and the access to get the boots, and he knows it, is pretty massive to him. That's going to be able to backtrack and do Spiral Cave, which is kept earlier to do better routing, and then you can check Dark Dead Mountain. Or he's not going to.
Yeah, so Justin doing his getting his hookshot, whereas Indispensable checking Hookshot Cave, finding a bee in the bottle for the first chest, and some money, some more money, and just a little bit of love.
Oh, what a shame. Evanidus doing a slight flute misstep into actually heading out to maybe clear Skullwoods. He has the fire rod and it's a crystal, so may as well get it over with.
Yeah, he'll pick up his boots and then he'll be able to clear Skullwoods. So this will go really good for him. Can't really route Skullwoods into too much other than a pestle check. So
maybe Chad's finally going to get what he wants.
Possibly, just given the fact that they need the Ice Rod. But Ice Rod on the pestle, or Bombos, and not too many options here.
I want to make the seed harder for the runners, but finding Bombos on the pedestal and then having it not be required would be quite a sad thing. Here we actually have a Spike Cape check from Indispensable.
Makes sense. It's in the logic, thanks to the cape. And has to be careful here. That's suggestion heading into Swamp 2. Shadow going through Pod here.
And sadly, Spikey was only a little bit of love. But now Evanidus actually has his boots, so we're actually in speed mode. Well, it is confirmed to us that actually Turok is Bombo, so this is a required item.
Yeah, this would be kind of funny if the medallion, like Quake, had no bearing in terms of Meyer.
We've yet to see anyone actually get that area. And actually, basically, Evanidus just has so many other locations to check. Like he's going to go do the upper route through Dead Mountain, Dark World, since he has the boots, so he can do Bonk Rocks and Myths with the boots enabled to actually check King's Tomb. And also you have the Cliff Cave. It's always nice to get out of it, get it all over with at the same time.
Yeah, can check the ledge, can check King's Tomb, but they don't know what they need from Meyer. So in terms of go mode, if you invest too heavily in one area and you do happen to find, say, Bombus and the Ice Rod, you might not know if you're in go mode, depending on what. Well, no, if you had all the medallions, then you wouldn't have to worry about go mode for Meyer. But if you don't have Quake, and it turns out that it's not Bombos, and then you start to go mode in area like Turok area or whichever, could burn you later. So sometimes checking like Meyer Desert area a little bit earlier can be good.
Sadly, this northern round through Dark World is not paying off so far. We have yet to see what's actually in King's Tomb. Meanwhile, both Justin and Indispensable right about to claim their Fire Rod.
Yeah, it's really tempting because he did get the boots, and then all these quick load checks are next to the area that he's in, but unfortunately not paying off in terms of, you know, this kind of like a breadcrumb leading to something.
There was no real better way to actually route this location in this particular seed, so it will not surprise me if all the other runners, when they find the boots, they're actually going to go straight to do the same, unless they actually find the actual progression items.
Well, he does have the Fire Rod, so he could have gone to Skull Woods, which would be kind of following suit of what he did earlier. It's a safer play, but opting to check Overworld, I'm going to go check Catfish here.
And we actually found both items in Skullwood, so clearing that dungeon is really just a crystal, which is convenient, but that doesn't give you any way in terms of progression.
Yeah.
It gives you the pedestal check, which at this point you don't really want to worry about.
I'm trying to secretly shame him by saying he should have done Skull so he could do the pedestal.
You're trying to give chat what it wants. I cannot blame you.
No, by what he's doing makes a lot of sense for sure. And yeah, gonna go check the Meyer Desert area. Has the boots, can a couple very quick checks here, and especially information on the medallion for Meyer, which happens to be, I think it was Ether?
I think it was Ether. We'll check on the actual stream. It was Ether. And we have the red mail in the little Meyer shed. And $5. So
red mail can be very good armor to have. You kind of feel invincible when you get it. But for all those red mail haters out there, coming up after this, the next daily race will be a hard mode open all dungeons. So no red mail to be found there.
Oh, definitely. It's going to be a really interesting race. And I'm looking forward to running it myself.
Yeah, I'll be entering it too. Should be a lot of fun.
And Misery Mire being fully completable plus a crystal, you basically have no reason to delay it at this point. Unless you feel really uncomfortable doing brain fart. Vitreous. Yes, Vitreous. The boss we all love.
Yeah, so, to do the proper fast strategy on Vitreous and Master Sword, you need 7 hearts. But So having 12 in the red mail, Master Sword, Vitreous should be no problem. But he can definitely be intimidating, especially if you only have the Fighter Sword.
Especially for a player of his caliber. I have no doubts of his ability to do it. And here we see our third ball of the seed. It being one of the...
bombing the chest in the swamp. Pretty funny. Yeah, indispensable, finishing up his fight, the players kind of rotating their positions here. But C has been very generous in terms of crystal placement and item placement. Nothing
they're all very
actually
convenient.
controlly at all.
No forced dips into comeback later. Everything was quite clean for everyone. The only exception is basically Eastern, but you basically expect that from happening. And also, you have Desert, but Desert is so quick to do later on in the run. And also the second half is not really considered the dip back, I'd say. Getting the big key, people know where it is, it's going to just take 20 seconds basically. Not even. So it's not the biggest time loss. So the seed is really generous in that regard.
Yeah, so almost sync boss fate here, but indispensable finishing with a very nice phase 2. Evanidus gains magic, and we'll check a chest for compass.
Indispensable apparently has not done the right side of the swamp and knows that there are some items remaining, so he's going to go back to clean that up.
It's kind of an interesting choice given that he actually already got the Titan's Mitt, and so he's got other options open up to him, but for some people it can be a little distressing to leave that part of the dungeon.
You especially don't want to have to redrain the water to enter the dungeon. It's like a full minute that you basically lost, especially if you have to come back, and turns out that it was absolutely nothing. So people just want to have that over with, and have the worry.
Yeah, there's recent race that left some people a little bit disgruntled because Swamp actually had 3 progression items. It had the mitts, and it had something else that I forget. But the big chest had the fire rod, and so getting the other items actually opened up like entire desert and mire area and whatnot. But a lot of people, myself included, had to double dip, come back for the fire rod. So
we have Mindflow in the chat saying, you can't leave the left half undone, it's just not ethical.
Yeah, and to answer chat, mitts were on Moldarm. Something worth noting, just as we have a little second here, coming out of a stairwell, like Indispensable did and Evanidus just did, if you hold a direction coming out of it that's not left or right, you'll actually get a little bit of lag. So when you come out of a doorway like that, assuming it's prudent, you want to be holding left or right for a split second, and then you can resume your direction, whether it's down or whichever. It's actually quicker to go left or right for that quick second and then readjust than holding the direction coming out of the doorway, or the stairwell, rather.
Evanidus making quite fast work of the little eyes, and then with the bow, Vitreous becomes nothing.
Yeah, the bow definitely helps. Having the health and the sword definitely helps. So Vitreous done.
That's a 4th crystal for him. Only 3 to go. But that Ice Rod and Bomba still eluding.
And I think we might have missed a head check here.
Ooh.
Oh, looks like we have a pesticide. And just had to guess and say bombos.
It appears to be bombos. How could I miss that? Oh, I'm so ashamed. Forgive me, chat, for I have sinned.
There's a lot going on at the moment.
Yeah, we have an entry into Evanidus, which so far not paying off, but it is a required dungeon, so I'm getting over it. Now, Evanidus doesn't actually know that desert is required in the seed, since he didn't do his pet check. So we might see him get the item and then leave, unless there's an item on Modus.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because Lamola has the green pennant, which would be an extra item. But it does find the other item here.
So we'll see if he really values that pendant.
Because he had the mirror, so you had the big key, and you already know that you had the moon pearl. So you could have just gone straight to Lamola, gambling that he would have the item and the green pennant. And you can see Evanidus kind of having a little bit of inner turmoil here, figuring out what he wants to do. But having gotten the second item, now it's affected his conscience in terms of what to go for.
He changed his mind, but unfortunately, like, we know it's required progression, but it's not necessarily the biggest time loss in the world, since just flying there, mirroring, is not the end. Oh!
There's an ice rod.
That's an item. And that actually leaves, at this point, the item on the pedestal, which is Bombos, as the Gomo item for Evanidus. How long is it going to take him to actually figure out where it is? That is the question.
Yeah, more in the no mode. Indispensable trying a cool bomb strat there. Can leave the sterile, place the bomb, walk a little bit, place the bomb, and then bonk against the wall. But not having the boots, you're unfortunately not able to do the fun bonk part.
The neat little setup.
Yeah, I believe it's actually the low percent strategy. So if you want to feel like you're cool and going fast, woo all your friends, then it's definitely a good trick to learn.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's see what's in a little bit more of the ice palace right here. 3 chests in close proximity that are quite easy to get.
Yeah, unfortunately we won't find anything worthwhile, but need to do the dungeon anyway. But if you knew about Bombos, then you would be able to Gomo this part.
Yeah, definitely, but still, he's still looking for that ice rod as well, so... And Indispensable doesn't actually have any medallions, so he has really big incentives to check everything thoroughly, because he knows 2 dungeons are completely locked to him right now.
Just kind of goes to show how differently races and runs can go depending on routing, depending on the items you get.
Now soon, in a few moments, we're going to have the big reveal of Evanidus realizing, am I in Go mode or am I not? And sadly, he's going to have his heart broken.
Yeah, seeing it's Bombos, knows that he needs Bombos. Not quite in Go mode.
And there aren't that many locations that are quick, easy to get with a lot of items that would be convenient for him. Like, we can see him do Spiky because there's literally no other better moment to do it. And it might be the Bombos right there. But other than that, I believe his routing could be ice.
Yeah, it's the Shadow getting his mitt, but yeah, the thing is that a lot of the dungeons in the Dark World are crystal, so even though he still has a few to do, they'll basically be like, you know, no-brainer kind of checks. So while he's here, he's just making use of the fact that he happens to be on the mountain and is doing a quick check.
Yeah, exactly.
the main thing really boils down to him knocking out that skull crystal and then doing a ped check.
Yeah, it might take a little bit of time for him to actually go back there, since he knows that he got all the items that he can get in Skullwoods. So going there is literally just to check the pedestal and claim the crystal. Oh, but it appears that he's going for it.
It's a really good option because you don't really route it in with anything, so you just want to knock it out, and then again you can check the pedestal. It's not inconvenient to do so. So it definitely makes a lot of sense, because if it happens to be a pedestal and then you go the entire seed, not go moding all the dungeons, then it'll just take forever.
It helps you solve the seed.
It's the kind of thing you can route in anytime, but again, the logic does allow for ped seed, so you do get to do the check.
Okay.
I'd be very surprised if he didn't do the check.
Can you think if he doesn't do the check?
If he doesn't do the check, then that's just not going to go good for him, unfortunately.
That would be a game-losing move right there.
Indispensable. Finishing Cold Stare. Unfortunately, didn't get anything in the dungeon because we know there's no proper progression here.
No, since we know where all the items for Ganon are. Everything else that's not earned by the other players is basically irrelevant. The shovel is going to give something that we shall never know.
Yeah, it's indispensable doing his Mire Desert check, which is really good. Again, you just get the information. You get to check a lot of items really quickly.
Yeah, it's a very painless check, and there's no real backtracking involved as well. So it's not like, oh, I get the item now, but I have to come back later for more items. There's no such situation right there. I will see Evanidus fighting Machina. I pray for him to have a clean fight, really simple. So far, Machina being quite annoying.
Yeah, one really good strategy you can do against Mothia is if you have the boots, you can hold out your sword and then just do poke dashes, and you'll be able to get a lot of damage onto Moth really quickly. And it's pretty safe strategy. Indispensable getting his ice run, so be happy to find that one. Still need his medallions though.
Oh yeah, that's not going to be a real pain for him. I actually forget where Ether is since it was so early in the run. I don't know if chat can remind me.
Ether, that was... I think that was like Sora area? I don't remember. But anyway, Evanidus indeed checking Pestle. Burn, baby, burn. Disco Inferno.
And that's when he knows that he's up for a bad time. And he has to go back.
Yeah, Justin getting a dead rock in front of him, and unfortunately hitting it doesn't make it move anymore. You can actually, when you first hit it, you can actually hit it again, like with a projectile or whichever, and move it again. But if you don't react quick enough, then you can't do it.
And if you don't have sword wings, you're kind of out of luck. We have Evanidus realizing, oh, I need all the pendants, so may as well go do desert.
Yeah, that existential rando crisis that you had earlier was all for naught because he has to go fight Landmola anyway.
At least he knows for sure that he doesn't have to turn in the green pendant to Sashrana, so the minor time save.
Yeah, and Justin knowing that unfortunately Quake won't play a factor here. And even look, more fortunate for Evanidus is the fact that the second item in Desert was not at Landmola, so even though he wasn't, he didn't do Landmola with the green pendant together, it still worked out for him. And there was no real time loss there in terms of doing checks.
Yeah, he swiftly claimed his heart container, and that's it.
So Shadow making use of his boots, checking bomb crocs and surrounding area here.
We have a clean fire rod to fight.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to learn that a lot of people didn't know you could use the Ice Rod on Lamola to do damage, or Argus, but just like the Fire Rod, you can use the Ice Rod to do 2 hits on Lamola, or do like the typical 2 hits and Spin Slash and Argus, but indispensable using Beast Strats on Mothula.
Can't blame him.
Things right.
Do absolutely everything you can against that boss. It's a little bit awkward if you're also trying to hit him yourself at the same time, and he's just flying all over the place.
A little awkward. Definitely, it's a little bit of a ping pong fight, but worth.
I have to con him for the double beast strats. Paying off right there. He's going to claim his 5th crystal right there. So he's still doing pretty good in terms of dungeon completion, in terms of crystals, but these medallions are just going to block everything for him now.
Yeah, this seed really turned out to be like an execution kind of seed in the end, which is really good for all the runners in terms of not feeling like they wasted much of their time, but knowledge kind of really plays the biggest factor too. It's kind of funny, Justin holding the sign and then throwing it at the bird before going to the cave here. Just hitting that rude bird with some knowledge, saying, yo, the town is that way, take it. And now he's getting his boots, so I'd be very happy to get that.
At least indispensable, actually knowing the location of one of the medallions that is required right now. Despite not being what he wants to see, at least he knows, okay, I can go back to do the 3 dungeons that I can finish and still maybe get progression that way.
Yeah, definitely.
I might actually restrict him from actually finding either, though, which is also required to finish Misery Mire.
Yeah, Ether will be really important too. It's kind of funny just how different everyone went in terms of Justin not having the sword and indispensable not having Ether. And just the routes that different people took. Gwyneth's going to pod, but hey, it's a puzzle seed. Almost doesn't matter. Just kind of do everything.
Justin having the early game without a sword and being the first person to actually find Fire Sword is actually quite funny.
Yeah, definitely feels good. Pretty good fight from Evanidus there, getting his, I believe, 2nd pendant. Yeah, so he'll be heading over to Thieves before long. And he won't actually really have to check anything. He just needs the big key.
Yeah, that's it. Get the big key and open up the light so you can actually kill blind.
Well, man, get hyped for Go Mode Thieves Town. It's gonna be a crazy dungeon time save and skip.
I have to give Evanidus a penalty for getting rid of 2 perfectly good bees that could help him in future fights. That's just sad. Be responsible with your bees. Be like indispensable.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting here because, again, Justin up sword, but also up silver arrows. And so silver with temper isn't necessarily the biggest of deals, but we'll really need to see how it plays out, given the fact that it is a pestle seed. There's going to be a lot of convergence.
It is a time difference.
Evanidus sitting very comfortably at the moment.
Especially since we know that the Evanidus is probably not going to open a chest that gives one of these sword upgrades. So, and he basically stopped opening most things because he knows he's in go mode. So he's basically trying to hope that he finds a sword upgrade in Ganon's tower to actually speed up his Ganon fight. Otherwise, he's not going to go back to the escape at this point to claim the silver arrows. So it might be a big deal. We might see, oh, he's actually opening the chest.
Well, he still needs the big key, so he's gonna open until he finds the big key, but then he'll be in go mode.
But he actually found his tempered.
Yeah,
right now.
a lot of the chests actually like go mode these town isn't really that much quicker, so hence kind of a bit of the joke. But
yeah, I just forgot that the sword in Thieves Town was actually right behind the big key, so we actually was going to get this tempered sword. So now actually the Silver Rest, the Silver Rest Ganon fight's not actually that painful.
Yeah, definitely. Temper is really a good find. Justin doing the bird toss, so shoutouts to that. But indeed, Evanidus, knowing he doesn't need any more chests, just go moding these down will save a little bit of time. Not nearly as much as other dungeons, where he's going to save time over other runners. Has more so to do with like Ice Palace.
Nasto is more equipped than other runners that did the dungeon earlier, so like in areas like this, he has access to the cave to be able to dash into the hellway without real pain, so he can take damage, not really caring about it speeding up things in some rooms that can troll.
Yeah, if the RNG goes right, and if your playing is clean, you actually will save time doing anything else. Like the cave cost time, and then especially at the end when your magic is refilling, it'll take time for that to refill. But it's definitely safer and can make things quicker potentially if something goes wrong or if you're not feeling confident with the room that you're in.
But at the end of the day, they call it the hellway for a reason, so can't really blame him for playing safe.
Yeah, because even if you get the picks to dash out in the middle, the RNG itself can just deny you.
And the end of the city is quite straightforward for Evanidus now. It's basically just claim this last pendant, and then go claim your bonbons on the pedestal, and then you go straight to Ice Palace, which is in Go mode, and then you go do Go mode Third Rock, which you basically only need the keys to progress and the big key, and you go straight to Ganon's Tower and big key and finish the seed. And scene.
It's very much execution here. All the races kind of tying up their loose ends and converging. Justin going through Mire, Inspensable, of course, going through Desert Palace here. Shadow going through Swamp. It's just really a matter of execution and how their previous routing went into things. You know, like going into Ice Palace and having the full clear, that'll cost time, but you can definitely make up that time if your play is really clean. In contrast to other players.
Yeah, definitely. It's rando, so the order in which you get the information that you need to do some things or not just makes a huge difference. Like we saw Indispensable doing a full clear of Ice Palace, which is really time consuming. Evanidus is just going to breeze through it, skipping everything. Those are huge time saves, but you don't really decide that it's going to happen to you or not. It really depends on so many other factors.
Yeah, Indispensable having a rough Flammula fight there. The sword doesn't actually help as much as one might think, and then without the magic for the fire rod, it can take longer. Gets his pendant though, so he'll be happy to be done that fight. It's definitely a difficult fight. Most people assume in the vanilla speedrun that you'll be getting about 3 cycles. And takes with 8 arrow shots. Not 8, I'm sorry, it takes
I haven't seen that run in a while, but I assume that you don't really have much buffer for misses, right?
Pardon?
I assume that you don't have much buffer for missed arrows.
No, the time that the arrow flies means to get another one, so missing is really bad. It takes 4 arrow shots for each, or 8 slashes with a sword.
Justin getting a really clean Vitreous fight thanks to spins to clear all the small eyes, and then the bow just makes the main ally a joke to kill.
Yeah, and just to show how much chat likes the pedestal, they want an audio switch just for pulling the pedestal. That is some commitment to the meme, to the hype here.
You need to entertain the crowd.
It's true. And Vanna's gonna go through Ice Palace.
going to be really quick, as we said, since you can just do the Ice Palace bump jump, skip everything, don't check your chest, and just go straight to Cold Stare.
Yeah, so a lot of the race is basically trading places at this point. And just again, kind of the bonus to Evanidus is he'll be able to go mode, but Shadow checking the tablet here in desert area could complete desert if you want to, but doing the book entrance will take a little bit of time. It's going to flute away. Justin finishing up desert, and then indspenceable in eastern.
So this point is literally a straight line to finish for Evanidus, which has a commendable lead over all the other runners that are still searching for progression. Justin having to do all the crystals. Shadow, which I even forget if he actually did the check. Probably not, since he didn't do Skullwoods. And Indispensable, still looking for both medallions. So they're going to do a lot more checks still, trying to find that progression. While Evanidus is already just, I don't care about chess, I just want to finish this.
Yeah, definitely a lead for him. Justin not too far behind, but still needs to finish Eastern, and then he'll be able to get Bombos and go to Ice Palace.
Yeah, it's still something like, we could say, 5 minutes behind Evanidus. That's a lot of leeway that he has right there for the rest of the seed.
Still a lot up in the air though, because again, there is that the execution alone can make up the time, but there's Ganon Tower and the silvers too.
Oh yeah, the silvers are definitely going to be a huge factor in which direction he goes in GT. One of the runners could be lucky and just decide, oh, this is probably Tile Room, and then they just randomly do Tile Room, and then it lands on the big key. Meanwhile, the other runner just does a full clear. I don't want a repeat of this situation with the Book of Midora that trolled the beginning of the game, which I called, so please no big key on the Tile Room.
The trick is to do the meme stuff when you know you're being restreamed. So for these 4 racers, I expect Tile Room to be their first check after getting a key from probably the right side.
You want to be able to raise your arms at the crowd and say, "Are you not entertained?"
Yeah, Evanidus finishing off Cold Stare. Ideally, for the quick kill, you want to kill all the eyeballs on top of each other. It'll cause less lag that way. So if they get split up, you're going to inherently lose some time there. But it takes out Cold Stare. And of course, Justin not too far behind, but he still needs to do Eastern.
So I believe that Evanidus decided to not use the Fire Rod against Cold Stare in order to save time on the magic refill once the fight's over.
Yeah, that'll save some time. And that was a really fun strat from Shadow there. He went to the very bottom and then started to come back up to kill all the Pengators there.
Yeah, personally, I love to just do a swing sword spin to kill all of them and then just quickly go back up. But I don't know it's actually faster than the other methods. It's just what I like to do. I'll have to optimize that.
The best strategy is always the one you're most comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely. Something that you have a high success with execution. You don't have to stress or think too much about it, and just as long as it's not a massive time waste compared to the metas, you're just fine. It's not what's going to make or break your run.
Yeah, just kind of going with what the chat is discussing. Evanidus won't be getting the silvers. Silvers were in escape, so there's no point for him to go to escape. He's in go mode. He's going to the finish. The silvers do save a little bit of time, but they don't save that much time. The time it would take to check would negate the time that they would save. So at most, you're really hoping that you'll find them conveniently on the way to Ganon. And the only time the silvers are actually substantial is either if your execution is not very good, if your magic situation is very sketchy, or in particular, if you have Master Sword with no silvers, because then that fight takes a long time, particularly in phase 4, where you have to do 24 charge spins. Again, the issue would just be compounded by your magic situation, whether you had the lamp or not, those little things. But having tempered silver is not a big deal.
And Justin getting a much faster Corsair fight compared to Evanidus, so he's definitely saving some time there. Almost getting the quick kill, but couldn't quite keep all the cotton candy puffs in the corner. But still, it was really good.
Definitely. And again, I don't want to say that getting silvers isn't good, but there's no reason to look for them.
Comparing a perfect Ganon fight without silvers with silvers, how much time do you really lose? Maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes tops? If you have a good fight, that is.
It might even be less. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
You need to do 12 spins. You can get 3 spins in a phase, and you can even get 1 spin before it even starts. So you're essentially looking at lighting the torch, what, 4 times? So it just kind of, it might just be like a minute.
And as pointed out by Cyclone in the chat, the silvers are actually an extremely important item if you're playing swordless runs, because if you want to kill phase 4 of Ganon with a hammer, you are a crazy person. The time frame that you have to actually deal damage with a hammer is so insanely low that you're just going to spend 20 minutes in that Ganon fight, just for that phase.
And Evanidus finding the shovel, in his mind, he's probably stressed and thinking, oh man, silvers are the shovel spot. Although not really, but kind of fun to find. But yeah, I believe there is 2 frames where you can hit Ganon when he's doing the transition. So in a 60 FPS game, that's not a lot of time, especially because I personally don't know the active frames of the hammer hitbox either. So it could get really dicey depending on the time you're trying to time something.
And we're talking almost task perfection there, so if you can do that, you're a crazy person, I admire you. And for the rest of us mortals, then the Gomo item can be the silver arrows, and it can be anywhere. Oh, we have fed music.
There you go, chat. PogChamp.
With an actual required pet item, this is amazing. And there we go, indispensable. Still doesn't have his either medallion. This is going to be the bottleneck item. And as we were talking about earlier, with Samaria being found really early by some of the runners, and Justin find it much later because he didn't do the fake flippers. Sometimes it can be the dumbest item that is actually available early in the run that just ends up trolling you the entirety. He has bombos before the Eater.
Yeah, so you'll actually be doing a full clear of Turok, but still needs Ether, unfortunately. Justin in a better position, the fact where he does have Ether. So he's going to go get his bombas, and now he's going to be able to go to the mountain. So Justin is the closest person to Evan at the moment.
Yeah, once you find bombos, the seed basically becomes completely linear, except in the case of indispensable, just because that Eater, which is such a shame for him.
Oh, Shadow has to be careful here, taking a hit.
Oof. I don't think he
only
has
the red
backup.
mail, and 1 hit
Oh,
will be
no.
death.
What a shame. At least the dungeons go mode, but that's never a thing you want. That's a good time loss.
Yeah, the Ice Palace dungeon is really front loaded in time, and then going through it will take time. So he's gonna cut his losses here, or at least try and hope for magic.
Oh no.
He doesn't really have a way to continue.
He's going to have to go buy potion, sadly. Well, at least he's going to have backup for the future and other dungeons.
Yeah, Van is having a little trouble in the room there, but now on its way to Trinex. And see, even though there are 4 chests there, they're really quick to check. It's just not worth his time to check for silvers.
Shadow finding some magic thanks for the stun prize actually being a small magic potion. Well, small magic drop, but still he's going to go get his safeties, refill, get some magic for the rest of the seeds, so you don't risk the same situation from other bosses later on in the run.
Yeah, all I could really hope for was the full magic refill, because the small magic pot, finding magic in the dungeon is RNG, and being in rando, the prize packs change. So there's no guarantee that he would actually find magic. And at that point, you're at the beginning of the dungeon, you may as well just go get potions and then come back. And again, if you have extra bottles and can get extra potions, then you're just stocking up for the rest of the run anyway.
And for the new runners out there, never feel like going to get potions is going to be a time waste. It is so much better to have the safety if you don't feel confident in some bosses, like early Muffler, early Blind, than actually fall into those bosses, and then you have the extra effect that you feel bad because you failed. So just take the safety and you're going to perform much better, I feel.
Yeah, so Shroudity, we have a game that we like to play. Do you know what time it is right now?
Don't we all love that game? It is the game where you pick your favorite chess number and maybe you win the lottery. What was that lottery?
The lottery? I thought we were just counting big keys. I didn't know to get your name on the leaderboard. Lottery?
Oh. Already we see some numbers in the chat.
Yeah.
Get your numbers in quick, since as soon as the Ganon's Tower is entered, your number is set. I think I'm going to go for my favorite number, which is 7. What's your guess?
Sounds good. I'll go with 14. But yeah, 20 locations is big key can be. So let's see, left, right, and how this will play out. Evanidus, going to the right. We'll get 2 chests here, and then we'll see if he wants to check further. But we all know that he better go to that tile room.
Oh, yeah. Not even checking tile room. It's ward number 2, and we see the number 3 here, which is just a heart container, which at this point, for a player of this caliber, is a waste of time to get.
Yeah, damage boost, a lot of time not very useful in Zelda. So even just getting a heart to try and tank a little bit more, not going to do too much, but Evanidus kind of is an option here. He is forced to go into his first left area, but he could actually still mirror out and go to the right, but he's choosing to continue on and go through.
At this point, it's not really advantageous, it's just like a basically just how you feel, having a feeling, oh, it's probably on the right side. You have to backtrack if you guess wrong. Oh, and we see a butter sword.
Yeah, butter. The butter won't actually, if you're a competent player, the butter actually saves no time at all. But it can definitely be a very cozy sword to get. But yeah, no Dark Magician girl strats from Evanidus, just going straight over to the full left here.
But it's interesting to know that if my scenario of earlier, if he didn't find the sword in TT, he would have still been fine and actually half-tempered for the Ganon fight. Here we have the chest number 9, also not paying off.
Yeah. You see Indispensable here, checking Mimic Cave, because again, he's still looking for Ether, so it's really unfortunate for his race. having to look for that extra item.
We could have a net of a kind of burnout there. Chest 10 not working, 11 just a 20, chest 12. If you have guessed number 12, you are the winner of our game, and you can feel the satisfaction of a job well done. I'm proud of you.
Real talk, I pretty much always guess 12. I decided not to guess 12. Because I'm just, like, I don't want to sound jaded or anything, but I'm just so over this big key guessing game. I've tried to guess, and I've gotten sniped, I've guessed, and the bot's been down. I'm just, yeah.
It's just like, it's like me, I'm going to guess 7 all the time, and then that one time I'm like, you know what, 7's never paying off. I'm going to guess 14. And it's going to be that time that 7 pays off.
Yeah, so Evanidus working his way through the upper portion here. Justin having his own little tour here, going through. Almost at Trinex, has a key, no lights bridge. He'll just get to do the boss, and then he'll be in Ganon Tower shortly.
And actually, a good 40 seconds ago, we actually had our first finish of the race. Benty's the finish in first place with an official RCRL time of 1 hour 40 seconds. 40 minutes and 18 seconds. Oh, my bad.
Yep,
I understand numbers.
To him.
So Evanidus really not that far behind the high places in this seed. Which is no surprising for a player of this caliber, of course. But so far, the rest of the seed is just pure execution at this point. And maybe a little dose of not getting trolled by Moldorm again. At this point, he can do cape strats, which do take more time, but the safety can just be useful.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The cape, it takes four magic per second to use, but it doesn't have an activation cost like Kinaburna does at 16. So, kind of doing that as he finds a Kinaburna. So doing a stop and start with a cape is definitely better than doing, say, a stop and start with the Kinaburna, because it takes an initial cost of 16 magic, and then it takes that 1 magic per second after, whereas the cape is just constant 4. So in terms of long-term use, the Kinaburna is better, but in terms of short-term, the cape is definitely better.
The one annoying part of the cape is that little delay that you need to wait after equipping the item to actually be able to cast it. That's always a thing that I forget about and throws me off. And we have all the bosses killed in the... For Justin, all he has to do is go back to the GT, and maybe he's going to save some time by not bothering on the right side.
Well, the big thing will be if he chooses to do the Dark Magician strategy.
It's so popular, it wouldn't be surprising.
That would actually be the incorrect strategy in this case, and it'll cost him a lot more time.
Yeah, that's the very important thing to keep in mind, Rando, if you're a new player watching this. The play that makes the most sense is not necessarily the correct one. That's the problem. Sometimes the out there, really balls out play that makes no sense can be the correct one. And some people can get crazy ahead and get insane times on Sunseed just by lucking out.
It's indispensable. Getting his crystal. Evan checking the last chest. No silver for him.
The last chest of the game not opened. Oh well, we'll all live.
No, he did open it, and just
it did?
I think I had an arrow upgrade. Might be mistaken, but he did check it.
My god, I'm zoning out.
It's okay. It's a very hard race to track too. It's been for a Postal Seed finishing at 1 hour and 40. It's a very good time. Did just have our second place finish, Salty Fry at 1:44:42, but Evanidus into Aghanim 2 here. This is a shot there, but the pattern's definitely not unfavorable for him. Aga 2 down. We'll be going into Ganon very shortly, and we'll be doing Silverless Tempered Ganon.
Evanidus just tailing the winners so far, and he's still a strong contender for that 3rd place. Anything can happen. But at this point in the state, it's so sad to just see Indispensable just going back to all these small locations, finding that one item that everyone else got early.
Yeah. It's unfortunate for him. Definitely played well, but you know, just that one location, right? And,
yeah.
Just based on the routing decision. And kind of a little bit of irony here. We just had a Pestle Seed, which meant all dungeons except Aga 1 tower was required. And then outcoming will be open, hard mode, all dungeons. So we're gonna have a lot of dungeon fun, a lot of execution.
It's going to be a fun one. You have to stay tuned and watch that for sure.
Yep. TGH finishing in 3rd with a time of 1:46.24. And yep. All right.
Oh, a finish from the future.
What?
Now he finished.
Oh. Let's see what you did there.
Indeed. Ganon not being too evil.
Final phase will take 12 spins. Evanidus not even wanting to get initial first spin. Just gonna get the torch glitch. And thankfully having the lamp, he can spam it. There's plenty of magic to spare, and can continue doing the fight.
And if he has a ball, then he can feel confident in doing whatever he wants. That saves the most time. Not having to worry about the torch is always a good thing, though. However.
Yeah, the main thing is if you have the silvers, again, the torch glitch doesn't really matter. It's only if you don't have the silvers, or if magic is an issue and maybe you don't have a lamp, then you would also want to pay attention to getting the torch glitch. So Shadow entering Mire here will be able to do his full clear.
He doesn't actually need to do the full clear. He knows that the only item remaining that he needs to get is Bombos, and it's not in here. So just get a big key and go kill Vitreous.
Yeah, but I don't think he has the pedestal knowledge, so if he needs
sadly.
But Evanidus, our first, one of our featured runners, he gets first place within time of 1 hour, 47 minutes, 55 seconds. Over the course of all the runners, he got 5th. So top 5, very, very good time, very good placement from him.
And we did not actually mention the 4th place, which is Mr. Barrybonds, finishing 4th with the official SRL time of 1 hour, 47 minutes, 26 seconds.
Yeah, so we'll see if Evanidus wants to come in for an interview shortly.
I hope so.
Justin Z, not too far behind. We'll be here along pretty quickly.
And Indispensable being in that situation that basically ends up with you finishing really late positions in a race with getting basically almost 100% this seed. What happened? Sadly, things like that can happen, but we all have these seeds, which is the luck is not on our side.
Yeah. Shadow was in a room with those bomb slug things. In the vanilla game, they always drop bombs, but of course in Rando, the prize packs got randomized, so not dropping bombs for him there.
Thankfully, there's no need of them for basically the rest of the scene, but that's always a nice knowledge to know. Justin, not struggling with Moldorm, not getting trolled right there. Oh, that's a good thing. Let's see. Oh, it actually opens the last chest. Good for you. And good for the chat.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So in the chat here, Evanidus said, hey, no one even told me I was being featured. Added me a Carter. So should have told him, because we might have got in the tower room, but no. It is what it is.
Sadly, it would have been the wrong play, so maybe it was better for his final time and his final positioning this race, but sadly we missed out on some hilarious moments.
Yeah, so opting not to do an interview, but he was in the chat to show his love.
Yeah, he had a fantastic run, really good execution, so be sure to give him a follow as well. Find his channel and just watch his speedruns. He's quite talented.
Is a good mind for the logic. Yeah, unfortunately for Indispensable, just having to check error, he's running out of locations here. Obviously, you know, just racking his mind. He knows people .dunning in IRC, and you know, in terms of play, he's played really well, but just the ether ended up trolling him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Admire.
Justin moving into the Ganon fight, which he actually has the silvers for, so he's going to save a little more time there compared to Evanidus, but sadly, it's not going to win in the race, for obvious reasons.
No, he'll still finish with a very respectable time.
Oh, definitely. He can maybe still squeeze in the top 10?
Not if all these people keep sniping. We've had Terror come in 6th, we've had Big Dunka come in 7th, we've had Unfit come in 8th, we've had JC come in 9th, and we just had Maximum Barnage come in 10th. So,
oh no,
he kind of cursed that a little bit, I think.
I need to stop cursing everyone.
It's okay. It's not.
It's the rule number 1 that he tell you when you want to cast. Don't curse on stream. Don't do it.
It's true.
And apparently I haven't been listening.
Curse, but... So Indispensable checking Fat Harry, not finding too much. Found some bombs, which are always hype, but not what you're looking for. And Justin Zed, taking down Ganon. And we'll be finishing in 11th place here with a time of 1 hour, 53 minutes, and 20 seconds.
Which is a really respectable time for Pedestal Seed, and a really good placement in this race as well. We'll have to wait and see if he wants to give us a small interview. And Indispensable finally finding his eater, remembering that he didn't actually open the chest in on-call. This puts him in go mode, and finally the end of his seed is completely near. Go killed Vitreous. Why do I have so much problem saying Vitreous' name tonight? I have no idea. But yeah, just go straight, get the big key, kill Vitreous, straight to GT, end it.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he didn't do Uncle at the very beginning, and after a certain point in having all the progression, you kind of assume that there's going to be nothing there, and if there is something there, then you know that it's going to put you very far behind your opponent. So unfortunately, just not really going good for him in terms of finding ether there, but he now has it, so he can now finish.
It was literally that small detail that put him behind. Like, I wager that if he got his eater early on with the rest of the people, there's so many small locations here and there they would have done, and would have been basically trading Justin, if not tied with him.
Well, because what you're doing by doing the Uncle First Draw is you're mitigating the amount of potential items in Escape. You get the gloves and you can do the back check, which is really quick, but what you're effectively gambling, if you do find progression, is the 4 chests in the front of Escape and the one in the middle. If you don't do Uncle, and if you don't do that one chest by Escape, you're adding 2 more, which means you're more likely, like, if you don't route it in at the beginning, you're making Escape as a check more worthwhile in terms of that. But it's really just kind of the meta in the mind game for how it works in tandem with your opponent. Because in a lot of other seeds, Uncle and even Escape wouldn't have anything, and in other seeds, it'd be required. But just by doing those 2 checks at the beginning, it just kind of plays into how things went conversely against other players.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people like to do them because it's relatively painless and quick chest to open that increases your chances of actually getting bombs for Kakariko, which is a place that you want to do fast and quickly early in seed.
Yeah, it really turns out into a game of like averages and chance, where you're banking on Eastern not having anything and then doing Escape, or you're banking that Escape won't have anything and you're doing Eastern, kind of an idea. And so it's really just up to the mercy of the seed how it all plays out. And so in this case, just having that little bit of the Uncle turned out to be good, but Eastern had nothing, I believe.
Yeah, nothing really interesting. Nothing that would save time. At least Shadow actually knowing where his Ganon item is, and he only has to execute to actually be able to claim it, and then just straight to finish the rock and finish this game. So for all the players, the seed is now completely linear, with no random checks for the sake of it, besides getting the big key to complete dungeons.
Yeah, and we do have Justin Zed in the waiting room, so we'll pull him in here for a short interview. And hello, Mr. Justin Z or Zed. How are you doing?
If you're trying to talk to us, sadly, we cannot hear you right now.
Yeah, he's so copacetic. Just doesn't even need to say anything.
Okay, how about now?
We can hear
awesome.
you.
All right, sorry about that. For some reason, push to talk got turned on. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Oh, no problem. And thanks for entering us. Yeah, you performed very well in this race.
Well, thank you. I am very rusty, and I felt like it kind of showed, but got a little bit lucky on the way I decided to route a couple things, so guess it worked out.
Now, can you tell me about your feelings that you had inside when you finally did that pedestal check and realized all the extra work that you had to put in the seed?
Yeah, not the best, although, I mean, I will say I felt pretty good about the fact that I did it fairly early. I don't know, I just kind of had a feeling about that one.
Yeah, you were actually the first runner that made that check.
Yeah, and so once I got around to getting up to Turtle Rock, that was more where I got mad at it.
Oh.
But, you know, I mean, considering, yeah, how early I had that knowledge, it wasn't really bad. I was just sort of being sarcastic at Turtle Rock for playing pedestal bombos.
You were the one player that actually had that situation of going to a rock and like, oh no, I need it, while everyone else had the reverse situation of, oh, that's where Bumbos is.
Yeah, so has that been kind of a theme that a lot of people are looking around for a while before they check the pedestal?
Not that much. People mostly routed actually getting the pedestal check in when they went back to clean Motula. The one troll that happens, Indispensable, actually skipped the finding the ear medallion rather than Bombos. And that's a thing that's been bottlenecking him for a long time, which is really unfortunate, since that item was really symbol to find really early in the seed. But sometimes small things like that can elude us. But
No,
besides that,
other.
Oh, sorry.
You know, for example, that I made that stupid mistake. I don't know if I was on stream at the time, but I forgot to hit the crystal switch in Swamp, so I wasn't able to do the, let's see, the right side, left side chest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's a bummer. I mean, it's just bad luck. I got lucky. Something stupid I did didn't turn out to bite me.
At least you didn't forget about it. So, I've seen some runners actually make a mistake like that, so they're unable to actually check the chest, and then they just complete dungeon. They're like, "Oh, I got everything. Let's leave." And then that item, that chest, turned out to be extremely important. So that's just a run killer.
Yeah, it kind of turned out that some of the mistakes in the way the seed went, it really played out to the runner's favor. So, for example, there was a safer method that Evanidus took where he went to do pod right away after getting the bow, but then everyone else pretty much went to Thieves Town. So Thieves Town Pennant, it can be a little bit of a, an uncomfortable thing to go to, but then being a pedestal, it really kind of homogenized the decision between a lot of racers, and then just kind of where the items fell and were located.
That was really the big first split in the race, since everyone delayed really late to actually go to that mountain to get the item check there. So there was this huge bottleneck for the Book of Mudra to actually find the progression in desert as well. So 3D homogenized the beginning, and then requiring bombos was also another factor that blurred the lines a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that seed definitely had all kinds of bottleneck potential. You guys have pointed out, I think, pretty much the major ones. So, yeah, no, I mean, it feels good. I'm home visiting family for the holidays. I didn't even bring my usual controller, so to just come back and say hello and turn out this high in the rankings, it feels pretty good.
You can just go to sleep tonight knowing that you perform admirably despite the circumstances. You had a really good race. And beside that early pistol check, is there another moment this seed that you feel particularly proud of? That you're like, oh yeah, I did a really good play there?
That's a good question. Honestly, no. I just really feel fortunate that my routing turned out to be pretty good, so it covered up for my execution.
And there we have Shadow finally finding his bombos, so he can actually go to rock and complete the seed. As we pointed out earlier, the seed is basically completely linear for both the players at this point. It's just a matter of finding the big keys.
There's a good and bad to having a pedestal seed. It can help even the playing field, and then it can also give an advantage to people based on some routing, but then largely execution. And so it's definitely good that Shadow is now having his bombos and able to go to the mountain. But is there anything besides the crystal switch that you mentioned earlier that I don't think we pointed out, so you kind of brought attention to yourself a little bit. But is there anything else that maybe you weren't necessarily too happy with? I'm sure every race is kind of like, oh well, this little thing or that little thing, but or maybe something that you improved from, or learned rather.
Yeah, I felt like most of my bosses were pretty messy. I can do better. And I know I can. It's just having been away from the game. It's amazing how quickly your execution will suffer. I mean, I'm in a familiar place. It's not like I'm in some strange surroundings playing the game. So it's just a matter of I haven't been playing a lot lately, and boy, it really does have a major effect, especially if you're not, a speedrunner. So you haven't developed the same level of sort of almost muscle memory practice, I guess, in a way. So for me, yeah, just being away for even a couple weeks since I got knocked out of the secondary tournament, it really shows. So maybe by the next time I do a daily race, I'll put in some grinding first.
Definitely.
Yeah, great.
I know before I do a seed or something, like especially waking up and doing the weekly, just kind of need that 5 to 15 minutes to kind of loosen up. make sure your movement is cleaner, or bosses or whichever. So can very much relate.
Yeah, and it's fun watching you when you do it because you're just hitting a safe state, immediately executing something, and it's like, oh man, this is fun to watch. This is funner to watch than the race.
Every time I open your stream, you're just basically loading save states, practicing bomb jump, do it again. Okay, kill Ghost there. Okay, do this other bomb jump. Okay, go kill. It just keeps jumping left and right and just do really interesting things that most people don't. But it's a really good, nice way of practicing. It's pretty entertaining as well.
Well, I'm only a little bit embarrassed, but thank you so very much.
Oh, don't be embarrassed. Actually, it's probably a thing that more people should do.
We should. Everyone, all the players that really kind of want to get good really ought to have the patience and the willingness to work hard that you have, Diaz.
Yeah, definitely.
And definitely, I do very much appreciate it. I've always been an advocate for execution because in terms of rando, you don't necessarily know what the seed will give you, and your situations really change. So I personally just feel that it's really important to work on execution. And I mean, it can even be really fun too. Like, it doesn't have to be an unfun thing to do. It's just really, interesting and challenging, learning different strategies. And then it does have a direct impact on your race. That's the one thing that you can really control is how you play. And
yeah, you're eliminating variables basically.
Yeah, I was about to say in fancier terms, basically the entire game, the C is a variable, and the only constant is your execution. You need to be the constant.
Yeah, and lower your standard deviation on how much your execution is going to cost you as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you see Ben in the tournament versus Christos, and even just getting the double on Ganon determined the entire race. Little things do add up and affect it too, but just that one instance, affected everything. But is there anything else you'd like to say here, just before we return some attention to our final two racers?
Oh, not too much. Just thanks to you guys for covering and to Feasel for hosting on Speed Gaming as usual, and it's much appreciated.
It was our pleasure. And also I want to remind everyone to give a nice shout out and thanks to our wonderful trackers that did a wonderful job during this entire cast, Dark Falls and Sigma. This basically, if you believe just watching a stream like this that tracking is super easy because you basically do it yourself when you watch. It's so easy to point out, oh, this person just got this item. Why isn't it updated like instantly? Then you should try to volunteer. Just join us here on this broadcast and try your hand try tracking. And you're going to find out really quickly that it's not as easy as it seems when you're just basically doing it passively. So trackers are absolutely wonderful, and until you've done it yourself, you can't really appreciate it at its right value, I'd say. So give it a try, join us.
As probably the worst tracker in the community, I can definitely attest to that.
Well, at least you're helping, so...
Trying, anyway.
There's no fun in that.
Yeah, it's a community effort. I mean, it's all for fun. Mistakes happen, but definitely I mirror that. I'm just appreciative to everyone that's putting in effort. Putting in an effort, even if it's poor effort, it's better than putting in no effort.
Yeah. It's so easy to do nothing, right?
Yep, definitely.
And also, personally, when I track, all the people in the chat actually helping out on items, because sometimes it's just really hectic and difficult to track. Like, all bit of help is really welcome, as long as you do it constructively, and not, hey, you missed this item, why isn't that update? What the hell? Yeah. Like, that's not helpful, but a tracker
you can't give them a free ride either. I mean, come on, you gotta track them with a little bit.
Yeah, but no one's going to be negative and you being helpful and just helping out.
Exactly.
And we see the Ganon 5 for Indispensable getting a nice double in this first hit.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Mr. Justin Z. Or Zed. I'm not
Oh yeah, it's Z.
Z, okay.
That's good to know. We're 2 Canadians, so it's an important distinction for us.
And I've moved over to Scotland, so I get Zed all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, very nice.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate you guys having me in.
That's our pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye. But so I had a lot of action in the last little bit there. One of the races took a death, and now it's been a little too long, I forget. But Indispensable heading into Ganon, doing a fight with Butter. So only needs to do 6 slashes, first and second phase. But for Silverless, we'll need to do the same 12 charge spin.
It's going to be really interesting how it performs in that last phase. This is basically the one big element that can make a big time difference how you handle it. Just a spin miss means an extra cycle if you're only really good at getting 2 spins per light torch. Not everyone knows the trick to be able to get in 3 spins or actually hit the window.
Yeah, something worth noting is that the Tempered Sword charge slash is doing like Butter damage, but the Butter charge spin does no more damage than the normal Butter slash. So that's why, even though the first and second phase are only 6 slashes, the final phase is still 12.
But most people still like to do the spins just because you have more active frames open for the weapon to hit, so it's safer since you don't have many frames to actually hit Ganon.
Yeah, the active frame. Like, that's something that I want to kind of look at, is active frames for different weapons and whatnot. In particular, the hammer at the moment. But,
oh yeah.
Shadow finishing up Tronix here. And we'll be going to Ganon Tower shortly.
As someone that loves playing swordless, knowing the active frames of the hammer sounds like extremely important info. Oh. Dispensable needs to be really careful not getting hit by these fire bats.
Yeah, he's still somewhat tanky, but now he cannot afford another hit. And oh! This is really close.
From the fact that he's not opening his inventory, I don't believe that he has a safety potion.
He doesn't need a safety potion. He's got it. It's all good.
He doesn't need that many hits left. We're hopeful.
He just wants to meme. He just wants to raise the drama. He's got this. No problem.
It's all for the show. Oh man, I'm so hopeful for him.
An easy game. Easy game.
Ooh. Oh, that was actually pretty close. That could have went sour right there. But he's going to actually nade it, and that's the end of the line for Indispensable. Finishing with an official SRL time of 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 40 seconds.
Yeah, easy every time, not a worry. Single heart to raise the stakes. Just get the blood pumping, just to make it interesting and seen.
Are you not entertained, chat? Here we're going to be able to see if we can pull him with an interview.
So while we do that, we're watching Shadow, and he is going right side. Definitely appreciate the boldness here.
Ooh. Finally, we might actually end up seeing where the net is.
And going to the right, getting the key, and following through, and then going back to the left tends to be the more efficient route. But sometimes you want to have fun too and do the more unpredictable thing. But hello, Mr. Indispensable. How are you?
I'm doing a lot better now that that's done.
Definitely. It's
Can you tell me about how you feel?
oh, hey.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Welcome back.
Sorry, I just cut out for a second. What were you saying?
oh, no problem. Can you tell me how you feel about the Eater medallion right now?
I don't think that that's polite for the stream. Not great, to say the least. I saw the pedestal and I was like, great, you know, got pedestal, that's Bombos, and then obviously Ether is going to be somewhere in Turtle Rock. Everything is made in the shade at this point, and then I got through Turtle Rock and didn't find it, and kind of started to panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like everything's coming up indispensable, and then just start to kind of shift a little bit from there.
Yeah.
You were having a really good race. I'd say the only time in terms of the routing and everything that really cost you time was kind of having to do the full clear for ice. But otherwise, it was like really, it was going really good.
Yeah, I felt like, I mean, I started off a little bit weak. I just like finding bombs at the beginning and then accidentally going into the wrong places, dying in Mini Moldorm. But I felt like I was getting it back under control until that Ether just stumped me. And then I guess I stopped like probably a few items before finding silvers, if they were in the castle. So that would have saved me a couple minutes maybe.
I'd say honestly, from watching, the extra effort you put here and there, everywhere, just trying to find that Eater medallion, the extra checks that you've done, if you didn't have to do that, and in the beginning of the game you actually found the Eater medallion like the other runners, you would have been just stating Justin right there that actually finished in 11th place.
We gotta rub it in for him. Hey, we gotta let him down slow.
No, but that was really the big factor of your race, and it was just such a shame for us to watch and knowing where the medallion is.
Well, I feel like you got the restream, you gotta have like a range of people who find the items and people who don't get as lucky, and that's how randomizer works. Sometimes you get everything works out great, and sometimes you get trolled by that one last item.
Yeah,
so yeah, not the end of the world.
Yeah, but despite that, were there some elements of your race that you felt really good about, that you're like, oh yeah, like I nailed that part, or I checked this and it was really a good move, really?
I felt good. So sometimes I check Swamp early. I'm always kind of like on the edge about it, because if you don't get anything out of it, it's just such a long like dungeon to get through if you're not go moding.
Yeah.
So I felt really good about finding going in fairly early for me and finding the fire rod there, and being able to find the ice rod without searching for it too much in checkerboard was really nice, because that's the item that I have the most like hatred for, because I can never find it. So I felt good about those. I despite the Ether thing, I felt okay about that. I can do better, but I could have done worse.
Yeah,
Definitely.
you definitely had an entertaining run. You had everyone in the chat really cheering for you to finally find the item. But yeah, it was really good. You should be proud of yourself.
Thanks.
So, I have a quick question. So obviously Ether is very beginning. It's one of the 3 controversial routes to take at the very start.
Yeah.
But did you forget the location, or were you thinking, okay, well, I haven't done it in so long? Like, did you write it off and then eventually have to go to it, or?
I've generally had okay luck skipping escape. If I don't find anything by like Sriracha Sauce's hut, then I'll probably go back. But if I'm finding progression, I usually like to follow the progression, because I just feel like I get better luck with that. So
yeah.
So later on in the game, like by the end, I was like, well, I'm going to search all the places that have opened up since the beginning of the game first. And really, I was intending to go up to the Catfish then. I just was like, oh, I'm at the pyramid already. I might as well do it.
And honestly, like, your logic wasn't bad, because most of the seed had a progression island that was fairly linear. The
Yeah.
bow opening up the mids and also where item. All the stuff that was in Path of Darkness, and then getting the mirror, opening up, getting the fire rod and other things, getting the boots and the hook shot. Just everything just went in a straight line almost.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I felt okay about was I don't like going into Palace of Darkness without a mirror. So whenever you find it at the end, you're like, okay, I made a good call there. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Leaving Uncle in the chest too also makes escape more appealing, because if you do Uncle first, then you're really looking at the three in the front, and then the one in the middle, and chances are you'll have the mitts, and then you can check the three in the back. So kind of leaving Uncle means 2 more chests, and then if you do a full escape, can make it a little bit more appealing to you.
Yeah, and for this one, I did the back of escape, and I didn't find map or key. So I did have Uncle available, but I had 2 of those in escape proper, like in the basement. So it wasn't. I just never wanted to spend the time on it. But
no, definitely.
It burned me this game. It's so it goes.
Well, yeah, it's also kind of the line of thinking where it's like, okay, well, if I do this every seed, you know, how often is it going to burn me versus how much is it going to help me? It's kind of like left side swamp. If you always skip left side swamp and it turns out to have something, then you just accept that those seeds in particular, you will take a hit. But then every other seed, you'll be getting a boon.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game, you know? It's all about which gambles you take and which ones you decide not to take, but they're still gambles.
Yeah, exactly. It can happen anything to anyone that has slight different preferences. That one person that really likes to do Agonist Cave early on rather than doing Ice Rod Cave.
Girl.
Oh man, I've definitely gotten burned by skipping Agona, but I still do it, so.
Haven't we all?
Yeah.
I got burned by skipping Catfish, and so I've been trying to route Catfish more in general, but this is really
so hard, though.
Yeah.
There's never a good time. The best time is still bad.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I should just kind of make it my own to myself meme, where I'm like, yeah, okay, Catfish troll this time, but I'll just take that as my swamp or you know, early hobo fake flipper play or whichever.
Yep. Well, that was a fun seed. Thanks for commentating.
Thanks for entertaining us.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you for entertaining us, and definitely did a good race. And just kind of how it goes. Nothing to, you know, obviously be upset over, like you said.
Nah.
If people wanted to keep watching you do other runs, where could they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitch at Indispensable.
Sounds lovely. And don't forget about the small difference in the name. Also, it could throw off people.
Oh yeah, it's look at how it's on the restream. INDSPENCEABLE.
Yeah, it's a small distinction that's pretty important if you're trying to find the right person. Just pointing out.
Thanks.
No problem.
All right, you guys take it easy.
Take care. Here we have Shadow in the last lap of the run. Just has to clean Ganon and then doing Ganon with the silvers.
Yeah, it's been a little up and down for them, but they're finally here, and it could be a bit of a sigh of relief. Agatu, the clones always shoot the orb that you want to reflect, but Agatu, like Aga1, after the first cycle, has a 50% chance of shooting the blue orbs, or affectionately known as blue balls. So sometimes the boss can just be an impossible boss where you're not able to get the fastest cycle. But finishing Agatu, going into Ganon, butter and silver, so well primed for the fight. Half magic, gonna be a good time. We're gonna have some roast Ganon before long.
I'm really hyped about it.
It's the old man pulling through.
Uh-oh.
Waiting for Hyrule. Getting notifications.
We have a slight interruption, but it's only lifting up the stream.
Yeah, so already phase 2.
Far so good, but he's taking a lot of damage from the fire bats, and if he doesn't have a
Ooh,
safety,
ooh.
that might be a problem. I don't know the contents of his balls. Oh, he opens the menu. He has to have something. Ah, he's fine.
Yeah, he's showing the chat, has the blue potion, not gonna use it. But for good reason, has half magic, can use the cape.
Let's hope that doesn't turn into hubris.
No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
It'll be
Got it.
fine.
It's easy.
It'll be
Easy
fine.
game.
I'm done cursing people.
Oh,
Oh!
oh, oh.
I didn't like that one. Not one bit. Okay, taking safety. Now basically the only thing that's going to stop him would be a fall, delaying his finish. But it should be fine. Has silvers.
Yeah, it'll be
Doesn't
fine.
actually get a torch glitch though, but yeah, when you have silver, it's not the biggest deal at all.
Yeah. 4 arrow shots. 1 down. Positioning Ganon. Going for the double.
Perfect.
Nails it.
It's not going to get another hit before he needs to relight torches though. Oh.
Yeah. Positioning Ganon. Getting the hit. Getting the 4th shot. Bodied. Ganon down. Got him.
Really well played from Shadow.
Yes, Shadow finishing in 45th with a time of 2 hours, 26 minutes, and 52 seconds. So gonna see if they want to hop in for an interview here. But that is the last of our featured runners. Race not over yet, and we'll have another daily coming up shortly. So that'll be a fun one too. And it will actually be a forced all dungeon clear.
With also on the hard difficulty, which means that the red mail doesn't exist, the butter sword doesn't exist, balls heal a lot less. You basically cannot use the powder to actually get fairies, you only get a heart, and other small tweaks that make things a little less safe, but still manageable. It should be a really interesting run to watch. You guys should stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm personally really happy to see different difficulties. When it comes to the game, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, the different modes, you know, keep standing and whatnot, but you know, the difficulty settings themselves too are a lot of fun and change a lot of strategies, because again, yeah, you'll have 2 tons magic use outside of very specific rooms, potions only healing half and whatnot, so the terms of, you know, the safety and the strategies used all very different, so that can be really exciting too, even if the mode itself is the same.
Yeah, it's really fun here and there, but obviously it cannot be included everywhere because this event is trying to be inclusive and try to bring in people in our community and actually play the game with us. So we need to have some easier seas and not always difficult ones, but it is a really nice and welcome change of pace.
Yeah, I'll be entering. It'll be my first time doing all dungeons, so really looking forward to that one. I believe you said you're going to enter too, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I want to, but I had a long day. I've been up since 2 a.m. And it's now 10:30. I'm soon to have been up for nearly 24 hours.
Oh no. And, it's been a bit of a long day for me too, but we do have Shadow in the waiting room, so bring them in. Hello, Shadow. Congratulations on finishing. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks. I'm doing all right. Not exactly my best time, but still better than my average.
Well, you can go
That's
to bed
good.
tonight knowing that you certainly entertain us with your run, so don't feel bad about it at all. I want to ask you how you reacted when you finally checked the pedestal.
Oh, I was. Well, when I checked the pedestal, I didn't think anything of it. I had two of the medallions at the time, and I'm thinking surely the one I'm missing can't be Turtle Rock. And it turned out to be Turtle Rock.
Lo and below.
Yeah, that's just that sinking pit in your stomach when you realize, God damn it, this is a pedestal seed.
Yep.
I mean, I knew where the bombos was.
But at least at that point, when you know it's necessary, and also all the dungeons that had pendants were like fairly simple and really easy to execute and do quickly. Eastern Palace, just a matter, go back with a bow. Desert Palace, get the boots, get the big key, finish it. And Thieves Town, relatively quick painless dungeon. So it wasn't the biggest time loss in the world in this particular seed, but it probably was a huge annoyance to actually know that, oh no, I have to backtrack and clear all of those. Damn it.
Man, it was upsetting. I mean, the saving grace is I'd already gone back and killed off Blind way back when. It was... I don't know what I was thinking at the time. What I thought I was missing that Blind could have had. Probably the mirror. I thought he might have had the mirror. I was just looking for the progression item at the time to be able to get the hook shot I knew was on the island, to be able to get the boots I knew were up in Bumper Cave. It was... I was fumbling around at that point.
And honestly, at that point, there was basically the split of, do you go to pod or do you do TT and do the dip into Skullwoods? Well, you had to do the dip in Skullwoods first because the bow wasn't there, right? But after Skullwoods, you had to wonder, do I go to TT or do I go to pod? And just happened to see that the play inside pod was the better one, since it led to mirror into all the other items. Mirror leading to hookshot, leading to wanting to go to swamp in order to get the fire rod, and it all goes from there.
Yeah, it was just hindsight is 2020. I mean, you can never know. I mean, when I got that cape, first thing I did was let's see, where was the cape? That was up in
the cape was in Tower Hera, I believe.
Tower of Hera. So I'm already up here. I've got. I picked up the cape, but I'm already up here. I still want to clear out the glove was up in the Tower of Hera too, wasn't it? So
yes, it was on Moldor.
So I want to stay up there and clear out the dark side of Death Mountain too.
Yeah, it was surprisingly a really good Tower of Hera, since you got the item that led directly to the boots and the glove upgrade. That's just really nice.
Which, clearing out the rest of Death Mountain turned out to be a mistake, because there just wasn't anything else there.
But of course, it's not a location that you can afford to decide to not go to, since the island density is just too high.
Oh, 8 chests I had to pick up there. Yeah, there was too much value up there. I couldn't ignore it.
Yeah, of course, and no one can blame you for doing so. But yeah, are there some moments in the sea that you felt like extremely good about, like about your routing or certain small decisions that you can think of, and you were like getting that boost of endorphin, like, yeah, I made the correct play there. Nice.
Well, just the early knowledge gathering, going up to look at what was at the Bumper Cave, going down to look at what was at the island earlier. I feel like that really paid off in the long run, even though it didn't immediately pay off. It was just knowing where those items were, those important items. And once I had the items to be able to go back and get them, I could immediately go grab them. It's just and then the knowledge of what was on the pedestal, checking the pedestal, even though I didn't think I needed the bombos, knowing that it was there, that paid off in the long run. I didn't have to go through all the dungeons that I go moded at the end there, looking for all the chests to look for that Bombos medallion. I knew exactly where it was. Intelligence. That was the key there.
It can, yeah, it definitely did factor into it, because even checking like the floating island, it can be a little hard to route in later, especially like if you're in a dark world but you don't have the mirror, and you know you maybe don't get the flippers for a little while, but then there's an item there, or you do get the flippers but you get led away. And of course the bumper cave, you know, if you wait until you have the cape but it has something very crucial, then you might not get to it until a little bit later, trying to route it in with the ledge or something. So definitely the information can really come into play. And I'm sure at the time too in Thieves Town, it's kind of, you know, it's pen in Thieves Town, so that can kind of give a little anxiety. And then you're not finding much in it. You find a sword upgrade and you're like, well, that's definitely nice. And then you find the medallion and you're like, well, let's actually pay off. But then, of course, you know, for you at the end there with Blind, there's that, well, I didn't actually really find progression. I might have found future progression. I found, you know, something that can kind of help, but it's not immediately helping me. So, you know, there's a little anxiety there. And then, of course, you know, getting the information on Bombos, you're like, well, which medallion do I use? And then it turning out to be a pedestal seed probably gave some relief in the fact that, okay, you know, spending the time in the dungeon actually, you know, was worthwhile.
Yeah, it was, but yeah, I saw that. It just sank in my stomach. I was kind of pissed that it was a pedestal seed. I thought I was going to challenge my PB, but my PB and my skill is such that I don't really think that I can challenge my PB on a pedestal seed. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, yeah. Getting a new PB on a pedestal seed needs to be like one heck of a pedestal seed, like pedestal, but basically jet, kind of. So like, there's some expectations that you need to brush aside, and like, it's probably not happening. But still, you had a pretty good performance considering, and yeah, you're in checks all over the overworld. Getting all that information, as you said, was really a thing that helped you out. And in the future, like with a little bit of execution skills improvement, you will be able to challenge a lot of people easily.
Yeah, I really need to work on my execution. That is really where I'm weakest right now. I mean, you saw my first fight against Blind. It was I could have done a lot better. I could have taken him down on that first try and not had to come back for him and waste all that time. That probably could have saved me, what, 10 minutes right there. But yeah, execution. I just need to practice the bosses, practice the execution. I feel like my dungeon routing is really on point. I probably didn't show it at certain points during this run. I was just kind of rushed, kind of in a hurry, feeling the pressure. I'm in a 50-person race, and I'm like, yeah, I've just got to go. I've got to go and make little mistakes there. But usually, I'm really on top of the dungeon routing. So it's just the bosses that I just really need to get down at this point.
Well, the good thing is that that's something you can directly control. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but in terms of input and output, execution, your own play is something that you can change in your input to maximize your output. So, you know, it's not like, oh, well, you know, I'm having trouble with dungeon routing or whichever, like the execution, that's just a matter of practice, and you'll carry that through every seed. So it's always really good.
Right. Well, I probably need to get one of those practice seeds everybody talks about, because
oh, definitely, yeah.
Because Blind is a problem, Mothula is a problem for me. I came in well equipped for Mothula, but you saw how he was smacking me around. If I hadn't been as well equipped as I was for Mothula, I probably would not have. It probably would have been a 2 or 3, 4 attempts going into Mothula.
Yeah.
It's
also,
a problem.
I didn't want to like come across as lacking respect, or like, oh, definitely, and as in you need practice, but more that I'm surprised that you haven't put your hand on that practice drum just yet. When you try it out and actually see all the things that you can just practice quickly with it, you're just going to have your mind blown. It's just really convenient, and you can just quickly make save state and do little things that Jezal really likes to do. To just load random save states of different things you want to practice in different order, and you just go and try it, and fail or not, just move on to the next thing and just keep practicing, like basically lining rounds of practice of things that you're suffering through, and you're going to see improvements really quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out real quick that the practice ROM is actually linked in the chat if people would like to check it out. But wanted to give a shout out to BVB Kermit, who's also in the chat a little bit ago, for having a heck of a race, I'm sure. but you know, this is kind of unfortunate how things worked out. But yeah, everything was very good. Is there anything you would like to say in closing here? Because I know we need to wrap up for the next race that's coming on. We'll still be a couple of minutes here, but I need to enter it myself. So, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I think we about covered it. Just one last thing I'd like to say is, you know, this community is great. The speedrunning community, the Link to the Past Randomizer community, is great. There's a lot of helpful people in their Discord. If you even think that you want to start doing Link to the Past randomizers, that's exactly where I'd start. Is look into the Link to the Past randomizer community. They're a bunch of awesome people, and they've helped me out a lot too. So shout outs to them. Awesome group of people again, and I hope you guys have a great evening. Thanks for featuring me. You have a great evening.
Oh, thank you so much.
You
And
too.
yeah, we're absolutely lucky to have such a welcoming and really nice community out there. Like, if you're having really cold feet about trying rando, just join us in the Discord, and you'll see that people are just really welcoming and really helpful, and you're going to learn no time. And you might think that these times are like amazing, and oh, I'm never going to be able to touch such a time, such amazement. But like in a month, you might be able to do sub 2 hour runs, no problem, and you're just going to get bit by the bug of rando, and just trying.
I'm still chasing that dream.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to save seconds here and there, and like seeing differences in the time that you can get is just really fun. Also, I want once again to give a shout out to our trackers for tonight, which is Dark Falls and Sigma. If you actually enjoyed our commentary, it could not have been really good without the hard work of the trackers, just helping us out and baiting us when we miss small details, and they've done a fantastic work. Please give them a follow if you like.
Yeah, shout outs to everyone. Had a lot of fun. So thank you to all our runners. Thank you to my co-commentator. Thank you to our wonderful trackers, through streamer. It's definitely a very solid community. There's no lack of resources, no lack of options to choose from. But for my part, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you to everyone. It was a lot of fun. And don't go too far either, because we have a race coming up in about 13 minutes, and same channel, and it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be open, hard mode, all dungeons, so definitely check out for that.
Don't miss it, it'll be hype.
Yeah, I've been Gesellschaft.
And I've been Cruelty.
See you next time. Bye.